Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're totally rewiring how you look at everyday communication. Most of us just treat talking as a casual, perfectly natural human activity, right? A quick update in a meeting, chatting over coffee, passing thoughts. But what if we looked at it through a much more analytical, almost tactical lens? What if every single conversation you have is actually a dynamic risk exposure system? Today, we're breaking down Robert Greene's famous fourth law of power: always say less than necessary, and we are translating it into a modern, highly tactical framework that you can apply literally right now. We're going to treat your words as a measurable, exploitable output and figure out exactly how to optimize them. So here's our roadmap. Number 1, the cost of over-explaining. Number 2, the psychology of leakage. 3, the dynamics of exposure. 4, cross-domain power plays. And finally, number 5, the modern mastery nuance. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the cost of over-explaining, or looking at speech as an attack surface. Look, beneath the surface of literally any dialogue, there's this massive tug of war going on with deeply conflicting incentives. Think about your goals as the speaker versus the person sitting across from you. As the speaker, your goal is generally to maintain control, right? You want to preserve a bit of strategic ambiguity, shield your vulnerabilities, and present a highly curated version of your thoughts. But the listener? They're essentially acting as an analyst. Their innate, often completely subconscious goal is to extract your data, zero in on your hidden weaknesses, and ultimately predict what you're going to do next. It's this silent social evaluation system running in the background of every single interaction you have. So, knowing this hidden tug of war is always happening, it begs a really fascinating question. What is the core truth of communication control? If listeners are constantly analyzing you and picking apart your sentences, what actually generates ultimate leverage for you in high-stakes environments? Well, it boils down to this fundamental truth. Power increases as the gap between what you know and what you reveal increases. Think of information minimization as your ultimate security buffer. It's literally a protective patch for your personal system. Because every extra sentence you give, every unprompted detail you toss out there, is a potential self-revealed weakness. By keeping that gap super wide, speaking less directly translates to fewer attack surfaces for anyone to exploit. You keep the mystery, and for sure, you retain all your strategic options. Moving on to section 2, the psychology of leakage and why we constantly overshare. Okay, so why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we give away so much data? There are 3 huge psychological traps we all fall into. First up is information leakage bias. We just hate dead air, right? Humans are deeply uncomfortable with silence, so we fill it with data, unintentionally revealing our true intent. Then there's overconfidence or insecurity expression. Honestly, rambling usually isn't about confidence at all. It's a subconscious cry for validation. We talk to prove we belong in the room or to justify our existence. And third is the interpretation expansion effect. This means listeners will almost always extract way more meaning from your words than you ever originally intended. They're going to connect dots you didn't even know were there. Which leads us to a pretty harsh psychological truth. Silence is ambiguous. Speech becomes evidence. Silence can mean absolutely anything. It projects power, deep thought, or a total mystery. But the second a thought leaves your mouth, boom, it transforms. It's no longer this flexible, abstract idea locked safely in your head. It immediately becomes weaponizable evidence out in the real world. Let's dig into section 3, the dynamics of exposure, and track the literal domino effect of our words. Picture this like a communication risk pipeline. Step 1, a thought. Completely secure, totally private. Step 2, speech output. The moment it passes your filters and you say it out loud, you instantly lose control. You can't take it back. That verbal output triggers step 3, an interpretation explosion in the listener's mind. They immediately start predictive mapping, tying your words to past behaviors and their own biases, which leads straight into step 4, exploitation risk. By speaking unnecessarily, you've just handed them the exact predictive leverage they need to negotiate against you or manipulate your position. And this exposure risk scales geometrically in real time. Just look at how speech volume, from low to medium to high, impacts your risk. As your word count goes up, your chance of inconsistency goes completely through the roof. More words literally equal a drastically higher chance of a slip-up or an emotional tell. Plus, your commitment anchoring skyrockets. When you talk out loud about a plan or an opinion, you're now firmly anchored to that expectation, whether you meant to be or not. You've boxed yourself in. Now for section 4, cross-domain power plays.
Because this isn't just about boardrooms. Let's look at evidence in the wild.
The core rule here that less speech equals higher control is a universal truth across highly competitive fields. Take trading. A trader who talks too much inadvertently leaks their market strategy to competitors. In chess, grandmasters know that reacting verbally or over-explaining a move gives the opponent a massive psychological edge. In cybersecurity, highly verbose system logs basically hand hackers a structural blueprint to breach the network. The military absolutely relies on strict communication discipline to stop fatal intelligence leaks. And digitally, oversharing online lets algorithms, advertisers, and bad actors perfectly reconstruct your profile and predict your very next move.
Finally, Section 5, the modern mastery nuance. This is the critical correction, because going to the extreme has its own problems.
If you apply this law poorly, you're going to hit failure thresholds really quickly. Excessive silence in a modern professional setting doesn't make you look like some mysterious mastermind. It usually just creates deep suspicion and awkwardness. Omitting important details, that just leads to massive misunderstandings. And let's face it, we need information flow to collaborate. The goal is not to be a mute. The sophisticated counter strategy is to speak clearly but minimally. You have to prioritize precision, ruthlessly remove emotional filler, and answer exactly what is asked of you. Nothing more, nothing less.
So we really need to redefine what good communication actually means today. Strong communicators aren't silent. Instead, they are selectively precise and strategically minimal. It's all about removing unnecessary informational entropy. You know, all that static, the rambling, the insecure, nervous noise. You want your words to carry immense density and weight rather than just filling up the airwaves.
And modern communication science makes a really critical distinction here. Clarity does not equal verbosity. Just because you're talking a lot and giving a dozen examples doesn't mean you're being clear. Usually you're just muddying the waters. But equally important, minimalism absolutely does not mean vagueness. If your minimalism just creates ambiguity and people are constantly guessing what you mean, that damages trust entirely. True minimalism is like a laser, not a floodlight. It's about extreme precision and high clarity, using the absolute fewest words possible. So here is your ultimate toolkit for modern mastery. Actionable counter strategies you can use today. First, speak only when necessary. Seriously, don't just speak to fill a quiet room. Second, aggressively strip emotional filler words from your vocabulary. Lose the nervous likes, ums, and unnecessary apologies. Third, always prioritize clarity over volume. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, avoid over-justifying your decisions. When you make a call, state your case precisely. If you keep talking to justify it, you just signal insecurity and invite a debate. State your position, and then just stop talking. Think about the literal system dynamics of what comes out of your mouth today, tomorrow, and for the rest of your life. Every single word you drop is a permanent data point that someone else is collecting. So I'm going to leave you with this. In your next high-stakes conversation, will your words act as a precise, strategic shield, or will you freely hand over exploitable data points to anyone willing to listen? The choice is entirely up to you.